Hello everyone. Like so many other people right now, I'm kind of stuck in quarantine, so I've been home a lot and I've been using this opportunity to grab some of my old retired robots and continue making some display mounts so I can display these in the bookshelf in my office. And so I wanted to create a display for Psychotic Break version 1, and I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. I kind of want to have it, displayed like this in a way so that you can actually kind of see, the top and the bottom sides of it rather than just, having it sitting like that on a shelf. So let's take a closer look at what I came up with for the display mount for Psychotic Break version 1. The first step in designing a mount or a stand for this is actually figuring out what I want to display. If you look at this, you might be like, oh, Psychotic Break version 1. Well, there's a couple of fake components to this. The wheels are just kind of held in with these little plastic spacers because I'm not going to waste an entire gearbox and motor assembly on this. I want to use those as viable parts, and all the broken ones I have the actual shaft broken off of them, so they wouldn't work for this. So I 3D printed these little spacers that the wheel slips over top of, and it can actually still kind of move and slide around, so it kind of gives you an idea of what it would have been like if it had wheels. I tried displaying this without the wheels. It looked really weird, so I just have some Fingertech foam wheels because those are relatively inexpensive. So I've got those on there, and then the frame top and bottom are of course the originals, and then the body is one that was used in the last competition. So that's all original, the weapon's original. I did maybe do a couple more spacers on the inside just to kind of, get this so it's a little bit more like it was. And then for the inside, if you remember the design on this, there's little standoffs that attach the frame to the body. I didn't want to use those standoffs because those are actually used in Psychotic Break version 2. They're relatively expensive and I have a limited amount of them, so there are 3D printed spacers that fit on the inside, and it looks the same as normal, but there are some 3D printed pieces in here just to kind of build it back up so that it looks like the original did. For most of my projects, I usually have a pretty clear idea of what I want to accomplish, but I don't always know the best way to accomplish it. And this one was no exception. It took a while to kind of figure out the best way to do what I wanted to do. So ultimately the goal was to have this displayed not, perfectly straight up and down. I kind of wanted to have maybe more of like an action pose to it. I definitely didn't want it like that or, even like that. I kind of wanted, something like that as a display. I also wanted it to be removable so that I could pull it off of the stand and you could kind of look at it and then you could, put it back on the stand. And I guess the last thing that I wanted was, same thing with my other mounts, is I want something that doesn't really detract from it, or doesn't really call attention to itself, something very simple. So what I came up with was this little 3D printed piece that sits on the back that's magnetic. So it just kind of snaps on the back, holds it in place, and I can remove it and put it back. So let's take a closer look at this piece. So here is the first version of the mount. As you can see, it follows kind of the contours of the existing frame. We've got the 4 screws in the frame, which correspond to the 4 magnets. These were just simply pressed in place. You could probably glue them in place. That would work fine too. This was just a quick print out of PLA, so some of these nubs kind of snapped off. But you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, should have 4 that correspond to the motor mounting holes, and then 1 in the middle that corresponds to the shaft, and so that keeps it in place and keeps it from wiggling too much. The final version of it is just printed out of Nylon X, just mostly for the color and for the texture. I have a GoPro mount mounted on here. GoPro mounts are fantastic because they're really cheap, they're really common. You can get like a 10-pack of these as knockoffs for just a few bucks on Amazon. So that's exactly what I did. This snaps in place just like that. And the screw hole for mounting this goes through the whole body. So I can use an Allen key from the front, adjust that, and now I can kind of adjust the angle of it, tighten it down, and then I can use this guy to kind of adjust the angle over here. So I like the adjustment on this. I can kind of get it exactly how I want on the stand. The rest of the stand is pretty straightforward. I have the base, I have the upright, and then just the screw that holds it together. The base is solid aluminum, just machined out of a solid block that I had on hand. Took a little bit of time to get dimensions just right, but whatever. This is pretty self-explanatory. I just kind of machined this down, just faced everything down. The chamfer along the edges was added on my router table that is on my table saw. So I just simply went through and just added a little bit of chamfer. It leaves a little bit of a nasty edge on it. It's not the cleanest finish, but just a tiny bit of sanding with a sanding block takes that right down. And then when you paint over it, you can't even see it's there. And I am using a new spray paint this time. I really like the finish of this stuff. Here is what it is. It's Krylon Premium Enamel with Fusion technology. But yeah, this is just basically sprayed right out of the can, and it leaves a really, really nice finish on it. I like it. It's just a tiny, tiny bit of texture, not shiny, which I like. So yeah, that's all there is to it. This piece is just the upright. It was just a standard, rod stock that I had on hand. Both sides are tapped. One side is tapped for the GoPro mount and has a little bit of a chamfer fillet in there just because this is kind of rounded. And then the other side is just tapped for the screw that recesses nicely into the base. So spray painting in the shop has always been kind of an annoying thing for me. I don't really have a good dedicated space for it. I picked up this little spray tent right before this project actually, and I really end up liking it. This isn't sponsored or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to show you the spray tent that I got for this. It's a good size. It's not too terribly tall. It's maybe only like 2 feet deep, so it could probably fit on a workbench. And then inside I just have this little Lazy Susan that I got for really cheap. And then I just have these nice little spray triangles, which these are actually really handy. They just kind of help elevate your project up a little bit. So you can put it up on there, spray it, spin it a little bit, spray it again, spin it, blah, blah, blah. And this whole thing just collapses like a traditional tent and fits into this nice little pouch. And the cool thing is, the turntable or the Lazy Susan fits in this pouch as well. So then I just have this little thing that I can store somewhere in the shop. So that helps out tremendously because all over the concrete on the shop out here, I have little spray marks from when I tried to set up some cardboard, tried to set up some boxes, and it just didn't really work out. So having a spray tent like this helps out quite a bit. So here is the finished stand. I'll do some other shots up close later, but that is what it looks like all put together, and it's gonna go up here on top of my bookshelf. And if I just take Psychotic Break and line it up, just snaps in place just like that. And it's pretty easy to get off again. You just kind of grab it, pull it right off. It just snaps back in place, and I can kind of pivot it and move it, so pretty happy with how that turned out. So this was a nice, simple little project, and I like the posability, I guess, of Psychotic Break. It really turned out well, and it kind of gives me that inspiration to try some different things for some of the other robots that I have to display. So I'm gonna get working on those. So thanks for watching. Check out the description for links for the spray tent and other things like that, and check out my Facebook page for any channel updates and other things like that. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.